Hey everybody, and welcome to Bright Founders Talk at Temi. Temi is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Welcome to our podcast where we bring you the most inspiring stories of entrepreneurs and experts in the software development industry. Each week we interview successful leaders who share their unique journeys and valuable insights. I am happy to introduce our today's guest speaker, who is Charles Bricoux, who is founder and CEO at Legislate. Hello, Charles. How are you? How is your day?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you that you made time to join us today. And just before we start, I want to give some information to our audience about your company, about Legislate. So Legislate is a legal technology company founded in Oxford in 2020, which make it easy for people, operations, and finance teams at fast-growing companies to safely create contracts and track the data they contain. So just before we will move to the world of Legislate, about all of the details, what it's hard for you to found, and so on, I want to start with creative questions for you, just to get to know you better as a person, not only as the founder and CEO. So for this question, you need to switch on your imagination, let's say. So imagine you had a time machine that could take you to any point in history. Which legal contract or agreement from the past would you love to witness being created, and why?
I don't know if there's any particular contract from the past that I'd like to see, simply because I'm not a lawyer. In fact, I have a background in engineering and business development. So for me, when I look at contracts, I view them as a enabler of business, and obviously the contract needs to meet the requirements of the relationship, the business, so that it can be done and succeed. And so therefore, if I had to go back in time, it would be more to sort of look at contracts that were not successful. Understand, how could we have made, now that Legislate exists, how could we have helped them make the contract successful?
And continuing this topic regarding coming back to the late dates, if you had such a possibility, would you change something in the early days of creation of your company?
Absolutely. I think the company is just over 3 years old, and I've learned so much. And like most software companies, the problem that you're solving today is not the problem that you're solving when you started. Mm-hmm. It's obviously a similar problem and evolution of the problem, but so yeah, I guess if I had to go back in time, it would be to skip all the mistakes that I made and develop what we're developing today.
Were there a significant shift between the MVP which you had at the beginning and which you have now?
Yes, because the customers we had at the beginning are different from the customers we're working with today. So their requirements are completely different, and therefore the product needs to be completely different.
Okay, my second creative question: if Legislate's journey had a theme song, what would it be and why?
I don't think it's specific to Legislate, but being a founder or being a startup is all about surviving. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be the song, because ultimately you need to have belief from your customers, your investors, otherwise you can't exist, and you really need to do everything you can to sort of earn their trust, earn their support, and so it is really just about surviving.
Let's come back again to the late dates when your company was created. Yes. So can you share with us that specific moment, let's say Lightbulb moment, or the specific inspiration behind the idea of making contracts machine readable using knowledge graph technology?
So in my case, as I said, I have a background in business development. So although I'm not a lawyer, I had to create contracts as part of my role to get customers. And I just found the whole process heavily focused on PDFs and Word documents, which are great for lawyers, but not really easy to automate, not really easy to search or extract data from. And for me, it was just the frustration with these documents that pushed me over to look at other technologies. And I came across knowledge graphs and felt that there'd be a great way of making the data in the contract searchable. And then when I realized that it would be a great solution, I couldn't stop thinking about it and just had to start a company.
Legislate's contract management software utilizes patented knowledge graph technology. Could you explain how this technology works in simple words for our audience and its significance in making contract data usable and searchable at scale?
A knowledge graph is a smart type of database that stores data as relations instead of columns. So what that means is you don't need to be constrained by columns that you are typically in traditional databases. You can just define relations between data. And so a visual representation of a knowledge graph is like a mind map. In terms of the intelligence, why a knowledge graph is smart, because you can not only just define concepts, but you can explain how the concepts relate to each other through rules, which means that the database has some knowledge, and the database can apply that knowledge to new data. So, for example, if you tell a knowledge graph that marriage is when two people are married with each other, a knowledge graph will know that if it sees that John is married to Sarah, it will know that Sarah is married to John, because of that rule that it's got in its database. Whereas traditional databases, they don't have any intelligence to be able to determine that, and so a database won't know that Sarah is married to John unless that there's almost like a duplication of the data. So I guess that's, I don't know if I've given a simple explanation of what knowledge graph is and how it works. Is basically a database where you can sort of store data as relations and introduce logic around patterns in that data.
I've said at the beginning that it's obvious that every entrepreneur is facing some kind of fears, concerns, and doubt at the beginning. But what is the most important, that entrepreneurs are facing a lot of challenges. As a founder, what were some of the most significant challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them?
I think getting customers and investors is always the significant challenge. When it comes to customers, you need to have a product that they want, and it needs to solve a problem that they have. And sometimes there's a challenge because customers might have a problem, but they don't want to change how they're doing things. So it's really important to explain the value that you will offer and the benefits of trying a new technology to solve their problem. And then for investors, I think the best way to secure investors is to have a relationship where they can see what you're capable of. So communicate, share updates, etc. And then if you have customers and a great product, then investors will come naturally.
Mm-hmm. And did you need to sacrifice something during this journey? Because I believe that at the beginning, when you had a small team, you have a lot of tasks, and then you just need to delegate them, and maybe you need to delegate some tasks which you actually like to do. Was it some kind of sacrifice from your side?
I mean, I think the main sacrifice is on the personal front. When you're a founder, you have to sort of, I mean, you don't have to, but but you naturally end up sacrificing a lot on the personal front because you just focus all your energy on the business. And I think in terms of delegation, I think it is really important to delegate, but you can't just expect that you will solve all the problems that you have by delegating, because the reality is you're probably the best person in the company to know how to solve a problem. So you need to be the one who solves the problem, but then once you have the solution, then you can delegate.
So as a founder, you need to take a risk every day, I can say. So what were some of the most significant risks you had to take to establish and grow Legislate? And how did you manage those risks effectively? Maybe you have some tips and tricks.
I think when it comes to risks, I mean, everything that you do is a risk. Hiring, building software, it's a risk. And at the end of the day, you just need to understand the risk, understand the priorities, and make the right decision in the right time. Sometimes not making a decision is worse than making a decision which is a wrong decision.
Yeah, that's true. Let's talk about, again, the technology and the topic which is really popular nowadays regarding AI. How had the adoption of machine learning and AI in the legal industry evolved in recent years? And what impact do you foresee it having in the future?
I think the legal industry is always very reluctant to change and reluctant to technology. So I think they often wait for other industries to adopt technology before making a decision. And I think that it's the same logic applies to AI and machine learning. So I feel like the actual adoption is probably quite low. However, because of technologies like ChatGPT, there's a lot of interest in it and a lot of people are talking about it. So I don't know if anyone's really using it. A lot of people say they are. Whether they are is another question. But I think, the whole world is heading in this direction. But we'll probably see other industries figure out how to use it properly first.
And what regarding Legislate, what are your plans for, let's say, next 2-5 years? And is there AI in those plans?
Yeah, so a knowledge graph is a branch of AI. So we're already using AI today. But I guess in terms of plans, it's about offering more flexibility to our users, allowing them to answer deeper questions about their contracts, and then in the future, it's sort of expanding to other jurisdictions, other countries, other languages.
And this question is more for you, for your free time. How actually do you manage to be aware of every trends and what is popular in the market?
I think it's impossible to be aware of everything, but I find that Twitter is a great source of trends, and you don't necessarily need to follow everyone, but there are plenty of people who just spend all their time tracking the trends for you. So as long as you follow the right people, you can stay up to date with the right.
So Twitter mainly is your source of news, what is going on the market?
Yes, Twitter. Well, obviously I read the news like everybody, but say Twitter, LinkedIn, and yeah.
And I wanted to talk about the team. So you are at the market, your company is has been operating for 3 years, am I right?
Yep.
And what the hardest part in merging the company, in growing the company?
I think hiring is always complicated. When it comes to hiring, you obviously need to hire people who can do what you need them to do. So that's why it's really important to know what you need, what you need in terms of the role, the requirements, what does the company need. But then I'd say that's only part of the challenge with hiring. The next challenge is making sure that you're attracting people who will work with the existing team. So will they be a good fit for the team? Do they sort of have the right attitude, mindset, vision? And then finally, onboarding. You can't expect someone to jump in a role and know what they're doing straight away. And I think you always want to offer an onboarding experience, learn about the company, learn about the values, learn about the role. But often you might take it for granted that so much more needs to be done or offered in the onboarding phase. So I think it's definitely not something that would be perfected, and we're still learning. But I think with hiring it, you need to get it right, and then if you get it wrong, you need to be able to act quickly.
And do you feel the difficulties? Do you face the difficulties nowadays with hiring highly qualified tech experts?
I think there's always a lot of demand for software developers, which makes it always sometimes a bit of a challenge to hire software developers. But I think by having a culture where you are working with the latest technologies, in our case, also being a UK-based startup, it does create an attractive environment for software developers. So it's just a question of communicating that clearly, and then you'll find the right talent.
As an entrepreneur in the legal tech industry, what advice would you give to other aspiring founders who are looking to disrupt traditional sectors with innovative technology solutions?
I think they need to sort of be patient, because industries that are regulated, industries that are ripe for disruption, will be very slow to change. So I think it has to be some patience, but there also has to be some perseverance, because they're not going to change by themselves. You need to definitely influence that, and there'll be lots of rejections. So keep pushing.
In your experience, what are some of the key characteristics or skills, let's say, that entrepreneurs need to cultivate in order to succeed in the legal tech industry specifically?
I don't know if there are anything specific to the legal tech industry, because at the end of the day, a startup will succeed if it has customers and a great product. So on the product front, maybe the product needs to be better, or there's less of a margin for error because of the legal industry. But overall, I think it just comes down to the skills that you need to be a successful entrepreneur in any industry. So and I don't even know what those skills are, but all I can say is working hard, listening to customers, all of that is really important.
And what does success mean to you personally?
I think success will be when I can go home or go on holiday and not worry about the business.
Nice. Thank you, Charles, for this interview. It was a pleasure to explore your entrepreneurial story and share with our audience.
Thank you for having me.